Chapter 17, Seeing Things. They caught up with Cass in front of the dusty carnival tent. The sign hung on the chain. Carla's the clairvoyant. She sees all. I'm going in here, said Cass. Then we're going in too, said Yoyogi. Pietro said we should keep you in sight. I'll be fast. I thought you were feeling claustrophobic, said Max Ernest. That's the kind of condition that gets worse over time. It doesn't just vanish. Ignoring her friends, Cass pushed the heavy curtains aside and entered the tent. She wasn't sure why, but she simply had to go inside. It was almost as if she'd been hypnotized and instructed to enter precisely this tent at precisely this time. Hello, Cassandra. It was the seer, Clara, sitting in her tree stump table in the front of the deck of tarot cards. As soon as Cass saw her, Cass remembered every detail of her appearance: the long, straggly hair, the skin so pale it was translucent, her eyes unblinking blue. Hello, Cassandra, Cass echoed, recalling that hers was one of the names by which the seer was known. She'd never been so happy to see someone she barely knew. At last her memories were coming back. Of course, it was odd that the seer should have be here at the Renaissance Fair hundreds of years after Cass had last seen her. But Cass felt a renewed sense of confidence, and she was certain that the seer's appearance and everything else would now be explained. It's good to see you again, said the seer. Sit, I will read your cards. She gestured towards the waiting stool. Her ears tingled with anticipation. Cass obeyed. As before, the seer passed her hand over the tarot deck. The cards flipped over as if by its own volition, a trick all the more astonishing now, in the present, in the real world. The Ace of Wands returns, but this time right side up. The seer looks quizzically at Cass. Have you come to return something then? No, not really. Like what? Did I not once tell you that something must be returned to its rightful owner? Cass struggled to recall the conversation. Yeah, but I don't think I figured out what it was. Oh, no? I should think it was obvious. Do you not have something with you that is mine? Cass hesitated, perplexed. Then, oh, you mean the monocle? The double monocle, yes. For years it has been out of my hands and away from my eye. Fumbling, Cass brought the monocle out of her pocket and handed it to the seer. Cass couldn't help but feeling a pang of regret. The monocle had been her primary link to the past, but if giving up the monocle was the precise for restoring her memory, she would gladly pay. The seer put the monocle up to her right eye and peered at Cass. The seer looked beyond Cass, seemingly to the same distant time or place invisible to the naked eye. She appeared to be testing the focus as she were binoculars or a zoom lens. Ah, much better, thank you, she said, lowering the monocle. You're welcome, but I thought you meant return something that I already took, said Cass, sorting through her still disjointed memories. When you read my cards before, I didn't have the monocle yet, right? How could I return it? A hint of smile crossed the seer's lip. Yes, the card works in mysterious ways, don't they? She passed her hand over another card. It flipped over in the air and then settled back down like an autumn leaf. Did you ever find your jester? Yeah, I think so, at least. I'm pretty sure we were in a dungeon together. The seer nodded. He may need finding again. Look at the time. Is he who is upside down now. She pointed to the last card that turned face up. It was the jester. His card was so close he resembled Cass' jester, the jester. But he was facing Cass instead of the card reader, upside down in tarot turns. Cass frowned. You're not saying I'm supposed to go back in time again, are you? The seer shook her head. I won't advise it. You have spent too much time out of your own time already. It has changed you. I could see it right away. Changed me? How? Cass asked, alarmed. Are you not seeing things yourself now? Like what? What things? Things you didn't see before? No, I mean, why? Should I be seeing things? Only if there are things to see. Are there things to see? Cass asked, growling nervously. Then it's always something to see, and not always with the two marbles you call your eyes. With what then? Have you heard of the inner eye, the third eye? Yeah, I guess, but I never really believed it. A teeny housefly has hundreds of eyes. Why shouldn't it be so hard to believe that you have 3? I'm sorry to say that the seer is incorrect, but flies at least. Strictly speaking, fly only has 2 eyes, but each fly eye has hundreds of facets and therefore can see in hundreds of directions. Ergo, the myth of fly has 800 eyes. Are you saying has stumbled over the word seer like you are? Perhaps not so much like me, but we both are called Cassandra, aren't we? Cass nodded hesitantly. And your secret, did you find that? No, at least I don't think so. No, wait, that's it. That's why I remember the lodestone, exclaimed Cass, almost jumping out of their stool in excitement. The lodestone hanging around Miss Johnson's neck. The jester said he would leave the secret under it, or like a message about the secret. Oh, queried the seer mildly. The secret must be short if it can be written under such a small stone. So then you don't know whether I'm right about Miss Johnson's necklace? Asked Cass, a little frustrated that her revelation hadn't been greeted with more enthusiasm. I can only tell you what the card tells me. The seer flipped the next card over. In a breezy wave on the face of the card, the robed man held his wand aloft, and his right hand, while pointing down with its left, the magician. Remember, as above, so below. I remember, but what does it mean? That depends on what it is above and what is below, naturally. Based on her previous experience with the seer, Cass had expected the seer to lay out several more cards, but it appeared from the way the seer folded her hands that she considered the reading finished. Okay then, thanks I guess. Cass stood up, distinctly unsatisfied, more anxious to tell her friends the news. Maximus and Yoyogi were waiting impatiently outside the tent. Before either could say a word, Cass launched into a breathless account of her adventures with the jester, and almost all of which she had now remembered. Ending with the jester's promise to hide the message, but the secret under the lodestone. The thing is, I don't know if he ever found the secret. He hadn't even heard of it until I told him about it. The other 2 Trace members stared at her in disbelief. How could he not have heard of it? Asked Yoyogi. He's practically the only one who ever knew. I know, I couldn't believe it either. But the worst thing is that Lord Pharaoh had already knew about the secret. That's why the homologist told me. So I made the jester promise to find it before Lord Pharaoh did. And you made him? Maximus stammered. Wait, you didn't meet Lord Pharaoh? Did you? Asked Yoyogi, stammering as well. Cass nodded, seeing again the dark green reptilian-looking eyes magnified by the double monocle. Yeah, it was pretty scary. Her friends shook their heads in amazement, unable to hide how impressed they were to hear Cass speak in such familiar terms about the jester and Lord Pharaoh, the Trace Society legendary hero, and the legendary villain, respectively. Well, logically, the jester must have found the secret eventually, said Max Ernest, recovering. He did start the Trace Society, didn't he? And you think about the rock around Miss Johnson's neck. That's the jester's lodestone. Asked Yoyogi. Cass nodded. Uh-huh. Well, carved up, but from the same rock. I know it sounds crazy. Like, how would she get it? But it looks exactly the same, and when I looked through the monocle, maybe it's not so crazy, said Max Ernest. Miss Johnson said the lodestone came from the same witchy aunt of hers as the tuning fork. Wait, wasn't her name Clara? Asked Cass, noting silently that the name was the same as the seer's. Yeah, that's the one. How about that? So it means that we want to see the lodestone up close, and if we get it from her, oh man. Yoyogi groaned, and the others nodded grumpily in agreement. Once again, they were going to have to retrieve a precious heirloom from the principal. That's it, it's over. This time we won't be expelled, we'll be sent straight to juvenile hall, declared Max Ernest. I almost wish you never went to go and talk to that mannequin. What mannequin? Asked Cass. Oh, the one in the tent you've been in for the last 20 minutes. You must have fed it a lot of quarters. What do you mean? Cass's ears began to tingle with panic. There's no man. Wait a second. I think I forgot something. She turned and ran back into the tent, throwing aside the striped curtains. Sure enough, sitting behind the window is a small booth there where the moments ago she'd seen the seer, or thought she'd seen the seer. There was now a mannequin. More accurately, an automaton. A robot fortune teller in red velvet turban, that kind you see in carnivals, the kind that hands out little cards and says things like, you will live a long and prosperous life, or you will have many children. Other than Cass, the big thing in the tent was a fly buzzing in the dusty shaft in the sunlight. Not even the tree stump was there. Cass stared at the booth, shaken. It was true, she was seeing things and hearing them too. She looked down, expecting there to be the monocle laying on the ground, but it wasn't there either. Strange. But now she was so unsettled, so insecure about her perception that she couldn't be certain she hadn't left the monocle someplace else earlier. Or perhaps that she'd never had it at all, or was just imagining the monocle as she imagined the seer. Distraught, Cass was about to exit when she noticed a coin slot next to the fortune teller's hand. It read 25 cents. On impulse, Cass dropped the quarter into the slot. The carnival-style lights that circled the booth started to flash, and the robot fortune teller nodded jerkily. Greetings, traveler. Clara, the clairvoyant, sees all. And as a recorded voice that sounded nothing like the seer, ask your question, then read your fortune. Cass looked over her shoulder to make sure she was still alone, and whispered, was what I saw real? Was Cassandra here? The bell rang and the small card appeared in the fortune teller's hand. Gears creaked and the fortune teller lowered the mechanical arm and dropped the card into the dish, the bottom of the small opening in the booth window. What am I expecting? Cass asked herself as she looked at the card. It's probably just going to tell me why my lucky number is something. She turned the card over. As above, so below, it read. Cass was so startled that she almost dropped the card. That was when she saw what the fortune teller was wearing. The mechanical magnified automaton's pale blue eye, the same way as the seer. The automaton's eyes was marble. So she was here. You are here. Cass whispered. The fortune teller's bell rang, and Cass watched the fortune teller lower the monocle and dropped it into the dish reserved for the fortune-telling cards. You want me to take it back? Cass stammered. The bell rang and the fortune teller dropped another card into the dish with the monocle. You have a gift. You will have need of it. Cass blinked, unsure whether the message was an answer. Did it mean the monocle was a gift, or was it another reference to the second sight? Again, after the bell rang, again the fortune teller dropped the card. You are haunted by the past. Do you mean haunted? Haunted? Cass asked nervously, or just worried about the past. Again the bell, again the card. As before, so now. Thoroughly mystified, Cass waited for another card to drop, but none appeared. She pulled the first card out of her pocket and placed it on top of the others. Your lucky number is 7, it now read. Cass walked out, clutching the monocle tight in her hand, and wondered if this was what it was to be crazy. Inside the tent, flies continued to buzz. When Cass emerged from the fortune teller's tent for the second time, Max Ernst was standing alone. What happened to Yoji? She asked, blinking in the sunlight. He went to go sign up for the joust. You mean, to be in it? That's crazy. How else are we supposed to get close enough to Miss Johnson? She's been surrounded by Amber and Veronica all day, plus the secret lady. I can't believe they would let Yoyogi sign up. I thought kids weren't allowed. We're not. That's the beauty of it. If he wins, he gets knighted by the queen. He gets caught, he gets sent to the principal. He sees Miss Johnson either way. It's win-win. How about that? How about that? Cass didn't like the plan, mostly, I suspect, because it had been contested in her absence. But she did have the alternate plan to offer. By the way, said Max Ernest, lowering his voice, I figured out that the warning about the Pietro sent me, what you said before about Lord Pharaoh and the secret, it reminded me. Yeah, what? Asked Cass, still focused on the joust. Well, I got this note about the code about Lord Pharaoh lives. Cass snaps her attention. Did you say Lord Pharaoh lives? Uh-huh. I thought it was from the Midnight Sun, you know, like a kind of taunt. But now I think Pietro must have written it, and I just can't figure out why. Well, it could be true, said Cass slowly. Did you think of that? True that Lord Pharaoh is alive, but he would have 500 years old, Max Ernest scoffed. Besides, didn't Cabbage Face say he ate him? We even saw Lord Pharaoh's grave. You're right, it's a crazy idea. Cass shivered. A horrible, horrible thought had occurred to her, but she pushed it away. The important thing was to get her hands on the lodestone and learn the secret.